One thing I wanted to touch on was at the moment, whilst we're recording this, we in New South Wales are in lockdown due to, I guess, the new strain of COVID, and it's I guess it's reminded us of where we were uh, 12 months ago. But business isn't stopping, and for some it's been a little bit of a halt. For others, they're still going, but the environment has changed. So tell me, how can a leader in a business, whether they are the owner of the business or they might be, I guess, the manager or GM, whatever the title might be, how can they be a leader when you're pretty much absent and you're not physically there with your team?
So I think the first thing, and I've spoken to many leaders and around the globe as well, because this is obviously a global pandemic that I don't think any corner of the earth hasn't been touched by. But I think first and foremost, as a leader, you've got to manage your own well-being. Like leaders now and business owners are under a whole level of new pressure to not only meet business goals and KPIs, etc., but also that responsibility of managing their team's well-being as well. So I would first of all say that you absolutely have to make your own well-being a priority as a leader. But secondly, you have to remember that we're humans, and when we're working in this sort of environment now, I mean, you may be in your office, but you're in my home here. We're getting it's a lot more personal than it has ever been before. And if you've got kids at home and they're homeschooling, there's going to be pressures and conflicts that staff and leaders are going to be feeling. So I think second of all, don't forget that we're humans, and there's some very fundamental human skills that we really need to remember, and I think they are around deep presence. So you and I've got my phone turned off. I've turned off my Outlook notifications so that we can actually be present and have a genuine conversation, because I like, how are you going? Like, I want to know, and a genuine. So presence is really critical. Deep listening. So, a lot of the effects of mental health or challenges that employees and leaders may be having, you don't necessarily see. You have to listen for them. And to
Yeah.
listen, you actually have to be listening to understand, not be listening to tell or to respond and things like that. So presence, deep listening, and then, of course, compassion and empathy. We really need to bring that into where we are today. And I would say, argue in life in general, I think it's something we can fall into the judgments and making assumptions. But by really being compassionate and showing empathy to our people, you'll be surprised at the trust that it builds. But also, I would also add, is showing compassion and empathy for self, because we can be pretty rough on ourselves, particularly if we feel like we're not meeting where we need to be. So showing presence, deep listening, compassion, and empathy is absolutely critical. And then carving out specific time to connect with all of your team, and remembering that some people are extroverted, and so they'll quite happily, ring you up and tell you how they're going, or if they're having a challenge. Some others are more introverted, keep their feelings to themselves and just try and push through even when they may be struggling. So if you haven't heard from a team member for a couple of days or a week, then actually make the time to connect with them, not so much about what they're delivering on and where they're up to, but actually a genuine conversation to say, how are you going? How can I support you? What do you need?
Yeah. Yeah.
And just
Yeah.
asking those simple questions.
It's so simple when you think about it, isn't it? Like, I know that for me personally in my business, Belinda, she's she's the I guess the person of first impressions. That was actually my first boss. He
And what
said
a
like,
great first impression she
yeah,
makes.
I remember like, and she is, and she's fantastic. But I remember that the first guy I worked for, Brian Lloyd, he said to me, he goes like, you're the most important employee here. He said, don't worry about me. He said, when clients call through, they speak to you. So, make sure you're always happy and, always have a smile on your dial, and that shows through on the phone. And, Belinda always does that, but I know that like Belinda's the type of person where she does take her job very seriously. And I could see there was stress built up, and, working from home is going to be another pressure with kids and all that. And the one thing I've been doing is checking in with her, but even before she left to go work from home, I was like, look, the one thing I want you to do for me is it's really important. I said, normally her routine is that middle of the day she goes for a walk. She moves her car and she just gets out there and she has a break. Now I know if Belinda's working from home, she's probably going to work really hard and she won't move from that seat all day. So I said, what I want you to do is middle of the day, when after you've had lunch or whatever and have a break, I said, I want you to get up and I want you to go for a walk for just 10 or 15 minutes, whatever it might be. I said, I know you're going to put your hard work in and all that. I'm not worried about the time, but it's really important you do that for your mental ability. And I know that you're starting to already build up some stress. So I said, it's important for you to go for that walk because if you don't, you're going to just crack. And you're no good to anyone, to yourself, to your family, to me, if you fall apart. So, most importantly, look after yourself.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think that's as leaders we can model that, and by doing what you're saying is like creating the space for them, and it's almost like the permission granting to say this is important for all of us. So I think self-care can get a bit of it's selfish to be to show self-care, but actually it's fundamental to well-being for us to take care of our own needs, whatever that may look like for an individual, because what might work for you may be different for me. But I think providing that space and modeling as a leader is very powerful.